What up, and greetings. Welcome to another Hearthstone card review. Ladies and gentlemen, we're on number 6 already. I can't believe it. It's crazy. It feels like yesterday when I made my first video, and it's coming up to a month where I'm making videos and you've shown huge support. And I just want to thank you so much. And yeah, that being said, let's get straight into more reviewing. The first card on our list today is the new Rogue Legendary, and it's a 4 mana 3/2. I know that I've been saying in my reviews a lot that the card is understated, and I've been thinking about it, and I think that I've been maybe too critical about some of these cards because looking at it from the side that we don't know what the meta is going to look like, these cards have specific uses that are actually making them better than I thought that they will. Also, if you remember when I said that rogues and shamans are getting some love this expansion, this is exactly what I mean by getting some love. It's a rogue-specific legendary, and it has 5 cards attached to it that are specific to this legendary only, I assume, because I haven't seen another card yet that would be giving you toxins, and since they seem like they're very rogue-specific, I doubt that there's one coming out. So what are these toxins? You get 2 of them when it comes into play and when it dies. Inside this one card, you get 3 cards, and the toxins are in general more useful than spare parts were. When you take a look at them, Blood Thistle Toxin returns a friendly minion to your hand and it costs 2 less. So it is better than, Rewinder, because that one doesn't discount it. It is slightly worse than Shadow Step. Brian Thor Toxin gives a minion +3 attack, so a lot better than +1 attack spare part. And it's somewhere in between Cold Blood, that is non-comboed and comboed. Fade Leaf Toxin gives a friendly minion stealth until your next turn, exactly like Finicky Cloakfield. Fire Broom Toxin, which is exactly the same cost as an Arcane Shot or a Holy Smite. And then King's Blood Toxin, which is probably the most crazy one. It is similar to an Adrenaline Rush that Rogues had in Alpha. And yeah, drawing 2 of these potentially gives you the Legendary and 2 toxins that you can combo or play with Gadgetzan and draw extra cards. So you draw 5 cards out of 1 card, which is pretty insane in some cases, I think. And the 2 existing rogue deck archetypes that will benefit the most from these toxins, if we don't see any other coming out, are Maligod and then of course Miracle. You know, Maligod can use this Fire Bloom Toxin to deal extra damage, is another card that get buffs to 7 damage with Malygos, or to 8 potentially if you have Blood Mage on board or another Azure Drake as well. King's Blood Toxin is just crazy in Miracle, you know, drawing 2 cards for 1 mana is just insane, and even Fade Leaf Toxin and being able to stealth that Gadgetzan without using Conceal in your deck is very, very good. Yes, we could argue with the fact that compared to something like a Toshli, the stat line is very, very bad. Toshli is a 5/7. It's quite a decent stat line, which this is quite a bad stat line. But what I'm saying is that you can't always look at the stats itself. The toxins are in general more useful in Rogue. What I think is amazing is that Blizzard is putting all this time and effort improving the Rogue experience, because Rogue has seen the bottom of the ladder for the most part of, the last 2 expansions. And this card is as thought out as Ysera, for instance, that also has 5 cards, the dream cards that are attached to it. Xaril Poison Mind will hopefully be played a lot more with the departure of Death Rattle minions like Creepers and Shredder, because their spells will in general become a lot more valuable and you can do a lot more with them. You know, now you can play like a backstab on a Shredder with, let's say, Blood Mage Talnos, and you do kill the first part of the Shredder, but then you still have to deal with the second half, and you already spent the backstab, which was one of your cards, for half of their cards. So with the departure of some of these Death Rattle minions, Rogue can stay early on in the game quite well. And then later on in the game, with getting all those extra cards from, Xaril or Tomb Pillager, and then getting extra cards from playing Gadgets and Auctioneer and comboing the cards to give them better effects than they normally would, it can probably remain in the late game more easily. So high hopes for Rogue. This is amazing step from Blizzard of giving Rogue some love, and I appreciate them so much for that. I'm going to definitely be playing Rogue a lot more with this card being introduced in it. Unearth Raptor also has one more friend coming up. In Standard, it's losing the Egg, and it's losing cards like Haunted Creeper, so it will be looking for more targets to copy Death Rattles from. And this is quite a decent one to copy. You know, sometimes you're just looking for the target to just play Unearth Raptor on. And when it comes in late game, you can definitely play it on cards like Xaril or even the Undercity Huckster that is coming out for Rogue as well. Big hopes for this card and a lot more thought from Blizzard than for the card that is coming up next. Second card on today's list, we have the new Paladin class legendary, and it is Ragnaros. Yes, it is the new version of Ragnaros. This time it's Ragnaros Lightlord. It's 8 mana, 8/8, just like the old Ragnaros, and at the end of your turn, it restores 8 health to a damage-friendly character. A lot of time, your face. Now, I've seen a lot of negative criticism towards this card, mainly because it's just the reverse version of the original Ragnaros, and it's also Paladin specific, so not everyone can play this in their deck. And I 100% stand behind Blizzard's decision to introduce the new version of original legendaries. And let me just tell you why. If you take a look at League of Explorers, it didn't really have any known characters from the World of Warcraft lore. Yes, some of them have appeared at one point as the side of some chain quest in the World of Warcraft, but overall, there was no emotional connection to the lore or to the characters that appeared on League of Explorers. And while I think that Blizzard can afford to do it every now and then, I don't think that they can afford to do it all the time. This gives them the opportunity to remake, take another look at some of the legendaries that exist, and put them into the meta for the next 2 years, and then they will rotate out. I mean, if you don't like this version of Ragnaros, you might like the next one. The next one might be Undead Ragnaros. You know what I mean? This card is actually not bad. People don't give it enough credit because BGH and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's 8 mana, 8/8. Why would you play this over the normal Ragnaros, which isn't even played? Well, if you remember Forgotten Healing, that for 0 mana heals a lot of your health, and you could add this card is a lot better than Guardian of Kings, because if it heals your face for 8 as a 8 mana, 8/8, you know, Guardian of Kings heals for 6 as a 7 mana 5/6. When you compare the stats, it's just much better. It's a massive light well. It doesn't only heal on the turn when it's played, but it also heals continuously every single turn after it's being played. So that's really good compared to Guardian of Kings. And Guardian of Kings was played in Healadin. I'm saying Healadin might appear again, and I'm saying it now. This is a card that, you know, would fit the deck very, very well. It is a threat, plus it helps you to survive. Yeah, I think that this card is very, very good, actually. Paladins are currently losing Bolvar. This is replacing Bolvar, so they can't really complain about that, can they? Next card on our list, we have a neutral minion for 5 mana, a 4/4, and battle cry for each enemy minion restores 2 health to your hero. After Ends of Tentacle, this is a second card that is definitely anti-aggro. It is sort of seeming like a replacement for the heal bot. You get a slightly better body, you get a 4/4 instead of a 3/3, but the healing is less reliable. In order for you to heal for 8, the opponent has to have 4 minions on board, which is not that likely actually. A more reasonable scenario is that this card will heal you on 4 to 6 on average, which is not that great, but it's not terrible. You know, in between this and Tusker Jouster and maybe something in the early game, similar to how we had with Zombie Chow, it might just keep you alive for long enough until you start playing your big guns and start overturning the game around. In case you're still alive on turn 9 or 8, you can play this with a board clear, like a Consecration, and heal for potentially 12 to 14 health, and then wipe the entire board, which is very, very good. If you take a look at it from the side that you might only heal for 4 or potentially for 0, but then again, you might drop this as a body, like you might drop Ancient Healbot as just a body because you have a handful of cards and you don't actually need to heal. But if you are in that situation where the opponent has overextended, you know, you can see this all the time with Shamans and Ebola Paladins and Hunters as well, where they just are pushing because you haven't played that Consecration or that board clear on turn 3 or 4, and they're pretty confident that you don't have it in hand, but you're just keeping that synergy with this card. And then you heal for half of your health, and you destroy all of their minions at one turn, and then they pretty much can concede, because it's very hard for aggro deck to come back from that scenario. Yes, this card has a lot of potential. It is definitely one of the tools that Blizzard is giving us to back of the swarm. And with Enzo's Tentacle and this card, fingers crossed we could survive until turn 6. Next card is a free mana spell for hunters. It's called Infest, and it gives your minions Death Rattle, adds a random beast to your hand. It essentially makes all your minions have Web Spinner's Death Rattle effect. Now, Web Spinner as a card itself will rotate out, but we still have Ball of Spiders. I don't exactly know how Ball of Spiders will work, as it gives you Web Spinners, and Web Spinners will of course rotate out of the standard meta. I don't exactly know if they plan to remove Ball of Spiders as well, and if this is meant to be serving as a replacement for Ball of Spiders. Feel free to let me know in the comment section below if they have released any information regarding this, but I haven't seen it myself. Many of Hunter's spells that have been revealed since Classic have been sort of unsuccessful in taking their place in the ladder. The only two cards that have seen some play are Quick Shot and then Bear Trap, but most of these spells fell really short of the expectations. Cards like Colpat, Dart Trap, Explorer's Hat, Feign Death, Lock and Load, and then Power Shot, even Ball of Spiders and Cobra Shot are the worst trash of them all. A lot of these cards just didn't see enough play, and Lock and Load wasn't used because most of these Hunter spell cards are not as good as the classic ones are. But this card is a lot better because it can synergize with multiple of these spells. It can synergize well with cards like Unleash the Hounds, Kill Command, and of course Lock and Load. There's a lot of potential in this card. I say there's a lot of potential in many cards, but I'm kind of afraid that this card might just become a fun card rather than a ladder card. And I don't really play much Hunters, so, you know, hack Hunters anyway, but a lot of Hunters are probably expecting a bit of a boost, seeming that Hunters haven't been doing exactly great lately, and they've been very underpowered compared to other classes. They've been not particularly great at aggro or mid-range like that have been in the past. So they are expecting something good, and this might be very good. You know, I might be underestimating it, and it might be an amazing card. Or it might turn out to be a very underpowered card, like a lot of the other Hunter spells. But we'll have to wait and see. We're on our 5th card today, and it's another legendary, this time a neutral one. It's called Mukla, Tyrant of Vale, another transform version of a known legendary, this time for 6 mana, a 5/5, but it gives the bananas to you. The initial reaction to this card was pretty bad. People were saying, yeah, you pay 8 mana for a 7/7. That is completely terrible. Why would you ever want to play this card? And while that is true, paying 8 mana for getting a 7/7 is bad. You might as well just play War Golem. Having those 2 bananas that buff +1/+1 can help you on board. It can buff your Flame Wakers. You don't have to put it on this minion necessarily so that it becomes a 7/7. What might be really funny if Blizzard decides to give us the Tavern Brawl bananas instead of the regular bananas like Mukla gives us. If we got, you know, the +2/+2 banana for one, or the one that deals 1 damage, or the one that swaps attack and health, that would be kind of hilarious if we actually got those bananas from the Tyrant of the Vale. Apart from that, I don't see this card getting played in anything apart from Tempo Mage as of now. Yeah, it's just too slow for what it does. It doesn't have an immediate effect on the turn when it's played, and it doesn't really force your opponent to play around anything when you drop this card. So, not great. It is a beast, but I like original Mukla better, so get out of here! And we're at our final card of today. It is a Druid spell called Mark of Yasharash. After Cthulhu and Zoth, we're getting a look at some of the first cards from the Yasharash tribe. For 2 mana, you give a minion +2/+2. At this point, it's very similar to Mark of the Wild. The only difference is that Mark of the Wild gives the minion taunt, while this one, if it's a beast, it draws you a card. So giving +2/+2 for 2 mana to a minion and drawing a card of it is a very good deal. Now you have to play beasts in your deck, and Blizzard has been incentivizing playing beast druid for a while now, and it hasn't quite worked out to the point where it would be viable on ladder. And while buffing minions with other cards hasn't really been that popular in Hearthstone, mainly due to the big popularity of silence cards, because if you put spell on a minion and then that minion gets silenced, you're losing the effect of both the minion and the spell that you put on it completely. With silence getting nerfed, this might not be the issue. And also, if you're playing this card, it is very likely that you are playing it on a beast, meaning that you have redrawn the card that you have spent on this spell to buff your minion +2/+2. So is this likely to be played? I can see it being played. In a Beast Druid, it is a cycle card that buffs your minion. It gives you something to do with your 2 mana. And usually you're going to be playing pretty much all beasts and no other minions in your deck. So this will always find a beast target. Nice addition. The art is awesome. I really love this art. Is tentacle eating a bear and trying to infect it with Yoshirak's mark. Very, very cool. That's it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for more Hearthstone content coming very soon. I already have like 6 or 7 cards that I need to review because Blizzard is just pumping them out at a crazy pace. So I hope to catch up over this weekend and then release the video hopefully Sunday or Monday morning. So until I see you next time, bye! Take care!